Today we're going to be talking about genetics. And there's the father of genetics, known as Gregor Mendel. He did pea plants in a monastery. He grew them, and he was noticing the difference between tall and short, purple and white flowers. So he was, for his work, I think it was in the 1800s, it stood up test of time today, and he was the predecessor to all other geneticists. A gene is defined as the unit of inheritance. A chromosome is a bundle of DNA containing many genes. There you see that those chromosomes A, B, and C. Now there's many more genes than that on a chromosome. Alleles are two different versions of the same gene. You get one allele from, say mom has brown eyes, dad has blue eyes. Mom would be the big B there, and dad would be the little b, and you would actually have brown eyes. Here's kind of an example of what this, like a tape on recording there, is used information. It's like DNA. One song on the track and the tape is like a gene, and then the cassette itself, a large bundle of tape containing many tracks. This is your chromosome. Different versions of the same song are like alleles, and there you see the big B, little b. Phenotype means the physical appearance. This is what we see. Brown eyes, blue eyes, red flowers, white flowers, tall, short, things like that. That would be the phenotype. The genotype is a combination of alleles which carry for a particular gene. There, that big B, we're just going to say that that's brown eyes, and then the second one in the middle there would be also brown eyes, and then the genotype of the last one would be blue eyes, because they are recessive, which we will learn here in the next slide or two. So the genotype decides on our phenotype what we will actually look for or look like, but we don't know this. Sometimes we can be brown eyes but carry the blue gene, but we don't know. The dominant allele, an allele which is always expressed when it's present, it cannot be masked by another allele, like the brown eyes here that we're talking about. If your dad's brown, mom's blue, and they give you one of those, a big B, as long as that big B is there, you will definitely have brown eyes. The recessive, an allele which can be masked by another allele, is also, it's only expressed when two copies are present. Say that mom was brown eyes and dad was brown eyes, could you have a blue-eyed baby? Yes, they could be carriers of this recessive allele, this little b. And if that was what was given off, then your baby would be blue eyes. If an individual has two copies of the same allele of a gene on a pair of chromosomes, an individual is homozygous. Homo meaning the same. So that would be somebody that is dominant, homozygous dominant for brown eyes. That would be big B, big B. Now somebody homozygous recessive, meaning that they would have blue eyes, would be little b, little b. Now, if an individual has two different alleles of a gene on a pair of chromosomes, the individual is said to be heterozygous, which means different or other. That means that they would carry a big B and a little b allele or gene. A cell which contains two copies of each chromosome is diploid. Normal body cells are diploid cells. That means sometimes you'll hear somatic or body chromosomes. These, like your human cell, would contain 46 chromosomes, or 23 pair. A cell which contains one copy of each chromosome is said to be haploid, meaning it contains half the number. And the only cells in your body, when you get old enough to produce sex cells, are haploid. So in a male, when you produce sperm, it is a haploid cell, and an egg in a female is also haploid. Those are the only cells in your body that are haploid. The rest are diploid. Here you see a diagram of a diploid parent cell. When they go through meiosis, and we also made a slide on just meiosis, they will produce gametes. The male goes through a process called spermatogenesis. which produces 4 sperm cells, and a woman would go through what they call oogenesis and make only 1 egg cell. So there's a little difference there. And unlike other ones, they will all be genetically different. And here you see ova are produced by, and only one of those would actually be suitable in humans for an egg. An ova and a sperm fuse to form a diploid zygote. Zygote contains 1 allele from each parent. This process is random. When a sperm fertilizes the egg, and only 1 sperm will fertilize the egg, you become a zygote. So you start out as a unicellular individual. Inheritance and biocolor. You have a little B on the egg and have a little B sperm. So when those two meet up and they get back on those homozygous chromosomes, your phenotype is going to be blue eyes. Genotype would be little b, little b. Here's a brown-eyed sperm and a brown-eyed egg. So the genotype is going to be big B, and the phenotype would also be big B, or brown eyes. And here you have an egg that contains the big B, which is for brown, and the sperm contains the little b. So when that sperm fertilizes that egg, the phenotype is going to be brown eyes. And then same thing here, they will also be big B and little b, vice versa. There you're going to have brown eyes. Same rule applies to inheritance in plants as applied to inheritance in animals. The male gamete or sex cell, like pollen, and then the female gamete is the egg cell. Plant genes can have a dominant recessive allele. The red is dominant, the white. So if you have, as long as you have a big R there, you're going to have a red flower. The only way that you could get a white flower is for the little r's to show up in both chromosomes, and when they matched up, you would have, in the second diagram there, you would have a white flower. In the genetic cross, you have a heterozygous cross. You have a red flower but carrying a recessive trait for white. So you could actually produce a white plant. Now, when you do the math on this and do a Punnett squared, you're going to see that as long as you have a big R, that you're going to have a red flower. Okay, so heterozygous offspring are twice as likely as either homozygous dominant or homozygous recessive offspring. We can show the likeliness or probability of a different genotype in different ways. As a percentage, RR, big RR is 25%, big R, little r is 50, little r is only 25%, or you can show it as a fraction, or a 1-to-1 ratio. So there are 3 ways to make a plant with red flowers. One produces a homozygous plant, which would be 2 big R's, and 2 produce heterozygous plants, which is big R, little r. But there's only one way to produce a plant with a white flower, and that's to produce 2 little r's. So in the genetic cross, big R, little r times itself, red flowers are 3 times more likely than white flowers to be produced. We can show the probability of different phenotypes in different ways. 75% red or 25% white, and there you see the fractions. You could also do it that way. We can use the Punnett square to work out the probability of the different genotypes and phenotypes in a genetic cross. So when you write those down and then you cross them, write down the genotypes of the gametes that each parent produces. Draw your Punnett square, write the genotype down, write in the different ways in which the gametes can be combined, and then those 4 combinations would show you. So in the first box you have the big R, which is red, big R, little r in the second box, which is red, and then the R, big R in the second box would also be red, and the last one is only 25% chance that the flower would actually be white. So if you was to say, well, how many homozygous red ones did you have? Well, what would be the percentage there? It would be 25%. What would be the percentage of a heterozygous red? Well, it would be 50. And then what would be the chance of a recessive white? And it would only be 25%. So look at the genotypes of the offspring in your Punnett square, decide which phenotype each one should produce. Well, you're going to have 75% red and only 25% white, or a 3-to-1 ratio. And this is what Mendel proved over and over again with his pea plants. And like I said, if you was to go by some of his most of his math, is going to be really close. A lot of times we know that there's a 50% chance when we flip a coin that it's going to land up on heads, and there's 50% chance, but we could flip it 9 times in a row on heads, but there's still a 50% chance. Well, when he worked out these ratios, he felt like that when there was a tall plant which was dominant and a short plant which was recessive, it always worked out to a 3-to-1 ratio. And then when he only had heterozygous cross, the short plant would show up just like the white plant here, it would show up. So Mendel did a lot of work with his pea plants, and the one reason he did pea plants